Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. Franny and I are so thrilled that we can finally celebrate this victory, and I am so excited to finally be able to get to work for the people of Minnesota. I received a very gracious call from Senator Coleman a little while ago. He wished me well, I wished him well, and we agreed that it is time to bring this state together. Over the last 8 months, as the nation has watched this all unfold in this state, Minnesotans have earned the right to take pride in the transparency and the thoroughness of our process and in the integrity of our election officials. But during the same period, Minnesota families have continued to face real challenges. So even though Franny and I are thrilled and honored by the faith that Minnesotans have placed in me, I'm also humbled, not just by the closeness of this election, but by the enormity of the responsibility that comes with this office. We have a lot of work to do in Washington, but that's why I signed up for the job in the first place. When we started this campaign way back in February of 2007, I said that Americans have never backed away from tough challenges, and Minnesotans have always led the way. Working with our fantastic senior Senator Amy Klobuchar, I'm going to fight hard to make quality health care accessible and affordable to all Minnesotans, to make sure that our kids have an education that prepares them for a 21st century economy, to make Minnesota the epicenter of a new renewable energy economy that frees us from our dependence on foreign oil, to restore our standing in the world and put people to work here at home. To those Minnesotans who worked for me, volunteered for me, voted for me, I can't tell you how grateful I am. When you win an election this close, you know that not one bit of effort went to waste. And to those who devoted their time and energy to supporting Senator Coleman, I can only imagine how hard these past months have been. But no matter whether you voted for me or for Senator Coleman or for Senator Barkley or whether you voted at all, I want the people of Minnesota to know that I'm ready to work for all of you, that I'm committed to being a voice for all Minnesotans in the U.S. Senate. I know there's been a lot of talk about the fact that when I'm sworn in, I'll be the 60th member of the Democratic caucus, but that's not how I see it. The way I see it, I'm not going to Washington to be the 60th Democratic senator. I'm going to Washington to be the second senator from the state of Minnesota, and that's how I'm going to do this job. I promise to do my best, to work hard, to stand on principle when I believe I must, and yes, to compromise when I believe that that is in the best interest of the people of Minnesota. So on behalf of Franny and our beautiful kids, Joe and Thomason, let me say thank you to the people of Minnesota for your patience, for your thoughts and prayers, and for giving me the opportunity to work for you in Washington. I can't wait to get started. Now we'll take a few questions. Thank you.
When do you expect to have the election certificate in hand and get sworn in? And how difficult is it going to be to come in so much later than everybody else?
Well, I can't tell you exactly when I'll be seated, but I think it'll be early next week, and it'll be coming in mid-session. Will be more difficult than having started January 6th, I'm sure, but I've been trying to keep abreast of what's been going on, and I'll do the best I can.
Senator-elect, can you tell us, describe the moment Norm Coleman called and essentially conceded the race to you after nearly 8 months of anguish and frustration. Describe what that moment was like, knowing you were going to become a U.S. Senator.
It was really, it was a very gracious call, I must say. He said it was a very hard-fought campaign. I said Norm, it couldn't have been closer. And I said to him that Franny and I can only imagine what this is like for him and his family. And he just said this is going to be the best job you'll ever have.
And you agree, I take it?
I hope it's the best job I ever had. Yes, I think it will be.
But describe that moment when the weight of all this was finally off your shoulders and you're going to take office.
Well, I don't. You're right. I don't know if it's really sunk in yet, and it was just. I have to say, it was just a really nice moment between two people who really fought hard, and he couldn't have been more gracious, and that's really what I felt in the moment. Was this is nice. It's a nice way to end this.
Have you talked to Harry Reid or any of the leadership in Washington about what kinds of positions you will be holding in terms of committee assignments?
Yes.
And how they will get you up to speed? And also, what have you been doing for the past few months? You have not been making that many public appearances.
Well, I talked to the majority leader. He called after the decision was announced. I'll be on the Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee. I'll be on, which I'm very happy about, I'll be on Judiciary. I'll be on Indian Affairs, which I asked for. And I will be on Aging, which I think dovetails nicely with Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. And what have I been doing over the last? We've been doing a lot. I've been going back and forth to Washington. I have a staff in place, so if I can hit the ground, if not running, trotting. And been trying to keep abreast of what's going on in the Senate. It's not the same as being there, though. I know that. We've also had to raise some money during this period, so I've been doing that as well. I've also been meeting a lot of people around the state. Franny and I have had a lot of folks over for dinner who we think can help us with different kinds of things like health policy and education policy. So we've been using this time, I think, pretty productively.
How many more people do you have to hire?
How many more people
do you have, and how many do you have to hire?
You should send your thing to. I'm not sure exactly. We're getting pretty staffed up. We're pretty staffed up in Washington and pretty staffed up here. Alana Peterson is our state director here, and Drew Lippman is my chief of staff in Washington. But we're pretty far along, actually.
One more question, folks. You said you don't want to make a big deal of being the 60th senator, but the fact is that you are. Do you think you're going to have a strong hand in helping push forward the president's agenda, climate change, particularly healthcare?
Well, as I said, I see myself more as a second senator from Minnesota. There've been not, I was in a Caribou Coffee the other day, and I met a guy who had just become a citizen, and I said, well, you might know more about our government and how it works than a lot of Americans. I said, what were some of the questions? He said one of the questions was, how many senators are there? And I said, what'd you put? He said, I put 100. And I said, there's 99. And we laughed. He laughed a little harder than I did. I really see myself also as a 100th senator. I'm going to be junior to 99 other senators. And so I actually am going to be entering with a great deal of humility and with a lot to learn. And also to do the work of the people of Minnesota. So again, it's the second. And as far as the 60 is concerned, 60 is a magic number, but it isn't. Because we know that we have senators who Republicans are going to vote with the Democrats, with a majority of Democrats on certain votes, and Democrats that are going to vote with a majority of Republicans on others. So it's not quite as a magic number as some people may say, but I hope we do get President Obama's agenda through. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt, Senator-Elect. Norm Coleman stopped short of saying, while he congratulated you on your victory and said the Supreme Court has spoken, he stopped short of saying who got the most votes in this election.
Sure.
Is that a concern of yours if those ballots are ever opened, or is that just water under the bridge?
Well, I think what you had was 12 judges look at this through the canvassing process, through the recount, through the election contest, and then through the decision in the Supreme Court, all agreeing unanimously that I won the majority, or not the majority, I won more votes than anybody else in the election. And I think that is conclusive, and I think that this has been as thorough and as transparent and painstaking as possible. And again, it's 12 judges, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, who all have agreed every step of the way, except for on some very, very small things, procedural things during the recount.
And still the number that Minnesotans will hear is 312. And they'll think about that and they'll say, well, this is a close election like you said. But what would you want Minnesotans to know now that you are the Senator-Elect, or soon to be, and that you are taking this position after it was such a heated contested race?
Well, one thing I really do take away from this is that I won by 312 votes. So I really have to earn the trust of the people who didn't vote for me, and of all the people of Minnesota, and let them know, not just by my saying so, but by my actions, and that I'm going to be working for every Minnesotan. And I'm going to be thinking of that every day when I wake up.
Are you hiring?
What are your immediate
We'll-
travel plans?
Last question.
Your immediate travel plans? I mean, are you heading to Washington tomorrow or something? Or?
No, we're probably not going. I think we're going up to the range to do some parades. Is my first travel plans, and I probably won't be in Washington until early next week.
What's going to be the hardest part about this transition?
I think the hardest part about this transition is there's a real difference between getting briefings on what's going on in these committees and having been there for, say, the markup of the health bill. So it really will be catching up, and I think that's going to be the hardest part of the transition. But I guess the hardest part of any transition and new job is the stuff you didn't know would be the hardest part. So I guess that'll be the hardest part. Does that make any sense? Because I hope it does. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.